on that note, I forgot I was going to mention one more thing about the Fun record. So,
Yep.
like I was saying, it was a fluke. I didn't understand the record, but the way it got picked up, it was kind of in the right place at the right time. It got picked up on the Super Bowl, it was like a Super Bowl ad, was really the thing that kind of propelled it in front of a bunch of people. And then it just that they kept going with that momentum, and it ended up becoming the number 2 downloaded song that year. And uh, I mean, I nowadays I don't know if Super Bowl is like the greatest way. You know, you can't like look at other people's path and then like explicitly aim for that goal. I think, but you know, it worked. Just because it worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But
No, but
it
I,
basically
you
it
know,
was like a
yeah,
steamroller effect with the right place at the right time, and then they just kept going with it.
yeah. Well, definitely Super Bowl. Definitely, I think it's a big platform. I know just about everything that they show. Not to get off topic, but when they show all the commercials or whatever, I'm immediately begin to search and trying to find out what the hell they're talking about. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that was a great opportunity for them and stuff. And let's talk about the Kanye West Gold Digger album, man.
Yeah. So Kanye West, Gold Digger, that was like I mentioned before. It was like right after I was working, after I came out of college. 3 weeks later, I'm in Baseline Studios with Just Blaze, and we're mixing "Touch the Sky," which is another single off Late Registration. And kind of a funny story. What happened there was so Just Blaze, like he's a perfectionist. He likes to get the mix like absolutely perfect. And he was listening back to the mix on these like weird, like I don't know, desktop like boombox speakers or something, and it sounded all funny. So he kept like turning the horns up or like doing some weird stuff to the mix. And then he like finally got back in the studio and checked it out, and he ended up pretty much going back to the original mix. But in the meantime, Kanye was under a deadline. He's out in LA with Mike Dean, and you know, when someone produces your song, you're supposed to give them the right to mix it. So that was basically what was happening. Like Kanye was mixing the whole record with Mike Dean, but since Just Blaze produced this track, he was giving him his producer rights, but it was just taking too long, and so he ended up just mixing the record with the stereo 2 track that he recorded the vocals to, and that's what you hear on the album. And that, you know, going back to like minute details. I mean, Kanye is the king of that. I've seen him spend like tens of thousands of dollars on instruments and players just to not like it. And you know, when you're at that level, you can say you have to do it perfect. There's no other option, really. So if you know, like, I mean, I can't afford to do stuff like that, but
Yeah, it,
if you're in that position, you can't afford not to do stuff like that. If it's not right,
yeah.
it's gotta go. So I worked on pretty much all the Kanye albums from late registration till Life of Pablo was the last one I worked on, but
Wow.
only Gold Digger and one of the songs on Life of Pablo, I forget the name of it actually, were the only ones where my work actually came out. It's kind of a funny thing.
Well, you see, you put on all that work, man, all that discipline, and yeah. So the perfectionist aspect when you're at this level, time, money, resources. Can you talk about the John Legend Once Again album? Can you talk about
Yeah,
that?
John Legend, my first platinum plaque right here.
Beautiful.
So that actually that was a Kanye production, um, and the record is a very simply produced record. But this is when I actually first started to understand the true genius of Kanye, because the record there was about 4 tracks in the session. It was the sample, John Legend playing piano, John Legend's voice, and a flute, and that's it. But the sample was like just amazing. It was really a perfect sample. It was 2 bars, but it was like two different bars. It wasn't, two consecutive bars of a song. And the way they worked together was like really fantastic. So the actual sample had a lot more instruments in it. So that's one of the advantages of doing a sample replay too, is because then instead of just having the stereo sample track, now you have like a multi-track. You have a drums, you have bass, guitars, whatever is in that sample. Now you can adjust those levels a little more and customize it.
Wow.
And actually, back to the AI thing. So now with Isotope, they're pretty much the industry leader for AI for music stuff. And I've been getting into the RX-7 lately, which has this thing called music rebalance, which it's not perfect, but you can kind of do that sort of thing with a stereo file. You can like boost up the drums or like take out the vocals and that sort of thing. Yeah, Ozone is just amazing. With software, I don't tend to go for every upgrade, especially with a more expensive package like the Isotope stuff. Because usually, I try to make those investments last. I can't keep up with every latest version. So I'll probably wait for like Ozone 10 or 11. Because right now, they have some features that I would like, but I think it's like 400 or 500 for the upgrade or some. I don't know.
I know.
Also, my computer too is it's a custom built. They call him Hackintosh.
Hey, Hawking,
But
that's what I
shout
do.
out to Bryson Tenniel. He's my computer guy. Bulldog CPU. He's like
Oh,
amazing. This guy has done over 300 last I heard, which is like, so it's probably closer to 400 now builds for people like Dave Pensato and, my
nice.
mentor Ken Lewis is how I found out about him. Jerry Wanda from Platinum Sound. Like a lot of people, U80 Universal Audio has some of his computers. It's very high end, and the cool thing about them is they're like customized. He'll go in and like figure out what you need in your studio, and then he'll build the computer specifically for that. For instance, in my case, I had this interface that was mature, meaning that it was no longer supported, but it was very expensive. It was, probably 4,000 or 5,000 for the whole package. So I'm like, I'm either going to have to drop, another 4,000 or 5,000 to get the latest one, or I can get a computer. And he designed it so it works with that interface, but it's got, I've had this thing for 15 years, but now my computer is fast enough where it can run the latest software, except
Nice.
now that it's been out for a few years, it's like I can't always run the latest stuff, but everything I have is like spot on and it works perfectly. So I'm gonna be on this thing for the next like 10 years probably.
Wow. So I presume you do most of your mixing with what's going on with your company right now. You do it in the box, I presume, most of the time, or you still kind of rely on analog,
No,
or?
I've been hybrid for quite a while now. I definitely love the analog sound. Uh, I originally did it just to like separate myself from everybody else because, a lot of people, it's pretty easy to mix in the box. You buy a Macintosh and you can mix in the box.
Yes.
So, I'm charging a lot of money. I want to give people value for that money. So I've been on analog. So right now I'm using a SSL6 as my like summing
I
mixer.
love that thing, man. That I don't have one, but I've been very very tempted. So please go
Oh
on.
man, yeah, the six is it's wonderful. It's really awesome. So the main reason I got it, it wasn't actually for the mixing. It was for monitor control.
Okay.
To like have a level for your speakers and whatnot. Because I was on the PreSonus Central station, which functionally is very good, but sonically is not very great. It actually kind of degrades your sound. And so I have a studio in Hoboken. Well, I think it's still there. I haven't been in like 2 months, but and I were like thinking about putting the central station in there, and we put it in for about one day, and we both listened to it separately, and we're like, nah, this is not happening. It just, whatever it does, it just doesn't. It's not as clear. I mean, it's very subtle, but this is like a treated room, and you can really tell the difference. So anyway, I was upgrading the monitors, and then the six just has all this extra functionality that's really great. So now I'm doing a little bit of analog summing, and excuse me. Before that, I've always had the GML 8200 analog EQ. It's like a $5,000 mastering EQ. That was kind of like my secret weapon to stand out from everybody else. So now I have a better signal path for that. Basically, I'll stem stuff out onto the six, and then it'll go through the GML and then come back into Pro Tools, and then I basically bounce it like you would in the box. So it's really a hybrid setup, as in I'm basically, my workflow is pretty much the same as if it was in the box, but I'm also bringing in all these analog
Has on it.
elements.
It makes stuff sounds better. So for everyone that is listening, and is looking to step up their sound and get better quality and everything, man, the CooperAnderson.net. Let's talk about the services that you're providing right now, man, during this time, and what can people reach out to you for?
So the other thing I forgot to mention before that I developed during the early stages of lockdown was the Zoom sessions, and those have actually been going really well. So I have this thing called Audio Movers. I'll give you a list after. I'm just kind of getting into the technicals, but
Sure.
so Audio Movers will basically broadcast what's on my DAW, Pro Tools, or whatever. I do production with Ableton, and then people can like tune into that, because if you're on Zoom or Skype or whatever, the sound quality gets this like underwater thing. It's not
Yep.
really usable. But Audio Movers, it's actually developed by Soundbetter, and it's I usually run it at 320k MP3 quality, but you can go up to 32-bit wave. I keep it at MP3 because that's like good enough where it's like pretty high quality.
Yep.
But I'm also, I'm running a Zoom session at the same time, and like, I don't know, maybe the wife and kids are watching something downstairs, so like I'm not trying to use all my internet bandwidth. But so that was the long-winded answer for. So I've been doing that for production and mix revisions. So those are like my two main services that I provide. Mixing, production. I do mastering as well. It's included as part of my mix service, but I also have mastering only clients,
Oh,
and
excellent.
I think that's pretty much it. My main services.
And I presume now that this pandemic obviously created a whole new way of doing things. I presume you're not gonna let that go once everything goes back to normal, because I presume it's just an addition to
Oh
continue.
no, I love
Correct?
it. I love it. I'm not. I'm telling everybody I'm never going to beat you in the studio for real again. We're doing Zoom. I
Well,
forgot my other service too is I'm also doing lessons, online lessons. I picked up a couple students that I'm tutoring, just like production stuff.
so like a
And
mentorship type of program, like a mentorship, like to try to give them
yeah,
guidance from.
mentorship. Yeah, exactly. I've done that. I've kind of dabbled with that here and there over the years. But like now, like my main student is she's a songwriter. She has some cuts with some labels. She actually used to be an artist, but now she's actually taking a Berkeley online class, and I am kind of like her tutor. So, because the teacher is busy, whatever, they don't give the full support that she's needing and looking for. So I'll come in and I'll help her with the assignment. I'll give her some specific tips for her particular situation.
Well, that is good
Um,
to know,
yeah.
because people can reach out to you, and there is a way to that's one of the things that some people are good at doing. Let's say they may be good DJs, or they may be good producers, right? But they're not good teachers, right? They may be very good.
I've never been a great teacher, to be honest.
Well, that's not what for the reviews that I've been reading, and for me personally knowing, I know how professional you are. It is definitely very important, and I presume there's like a way for them to be able to either record the session or revisit what, because this is one of the things. Sometimes you learn something. It's kind of like when I remember I went and I took a couple guitar lessons. This is like 20 years ago, right? And I go there and they only show you a little bit, right? And you got to go practice it all week, right? And then you kind of forgot something or you didn't write something down, and then I was like, man, I presume they got a way to be able to revisit it, or is that like a curriculum, or how do you that work with
Yeah,
on your end?
so I guess the way, I'm saying I'm not the greatest teacher, but what I am good at is like Q&A. Like if you ask me a question, I'm good at answering it. And I'm good at like giving you examples of how I would do that, because that's basically what I'm doing all day anyway for my clients. So with Zoom sessions, I can share my screen with you, or you can share your screen with me. So if I need to jump on your computer and see what you're looking at and be like, oh, you just click this thing here, I can do that. Or if I need to show you an example of like a project that I have, I can do that as well. And then what I do is I record everything and then just post it to a private YouTube link, and then I share that, so then the student can go back and check it out and whatnot. And in regards to the practice, I mean, that's really at the end of the day what it's all about. You got to go back in
Oh man,
and and do the reps.
I know, but that's where the discipline goes, and dovetails along, I guess, with the drive. How bad do you want it? What where do you see yourself wanting to go? Or where do you see yourself taking your company, man, from this point on, and in your career as a producer, as a musician, and as an engineer?
Well, yeah, like I said, right now I'm still kind of trying to work out the family thing and seeing where that, how everything fits into place. And then, like I said, with the pandemic, figuring out the Zoom sessions. I've had a couple different like, not really commercial studios, but like project studios that aren't in my house for probably this last 6 years or so. And I've had a bunch of different situations where like I've had my own studio, or right now I'm in a shared studio. So I don't know, I'm still kind of in limbo, I think, until the kids are in like kindergarten and they have a more regular schedule.
All right, well, that's
But
good to know.
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to do something musical and tech, and I love mixing and production and all that stuff. So
Songwriting too,
just
right? You're
keeping
a
it going. I'm
songwriter.
just, it's one of those times in life. Like right now, I'm just kind of, treading water. I'm not really like, you know, I don't have a specific goal at the moment that I'm working towards. So
I
I'm just
understand.
trying to like realistically materialize the next move, I guess, basically.
I guess that's a good way to put it. Have some short-term goals and to be able to actually execute. Guess that's where the drive comes into play, along with the discipline. And let's talk a little bit about inspiration. What inspires you? Is it songwriting, or is it when does it strike? Do you pick up a guitar, or you're a bass player, right? You play bass, right? Was
Yeah,
that how you
I
got
mean,
started?
bass is like my main instrument, like I said before, when I was in high school and at Berkeley and whatnot. But I mean, I don't really necessarily consider myself a bass player. Like if someone came in and hired me to produce and they wanted a bass player, I would probably call someone else, unless it was like super basic.
Understand.
So I always tell everybody I'm like mediocre at a lot of instruments, but I have played bass, guitar, and sang and keyboards on major label records. So I have,
Nice.
for being a mediocre player, I have a lot more credits than most. But yeah, I love guitar and production, and I mean, basically right now, for inspiration, I like listening to New Music Friday every week and just hearing what other people are doing. And New Music Friday is kind of a tricky thing because it's a curated playlist. So it's not like all encompassing, but it's curated by like, it's very well curated. Let me put it that way. It has a lot of different genres. There's a lot of hip hop. There's a lot of country. There's a lot of EDM, pop. There's some singer-songwriter stuff on there. It's really a wide variety. So that's a good way for me to kind of get out of my comfort zone and listen to artists that I wouldn't otherwise. And I find some gems for sure. So I'll go and listen to New Music Friday, and then I'll make like a playlist from that. And that's kind of my inspiration. Like, someone just did this within the last year or whatever, however long it takes to make a song. And I'm like, wow, if they can do that, I can do one too. And then, that's what gets me back into the studio and, and producing.
Feed off the inspirations of others, and that I try to do the same thing, man. I listen to music all the time, and you actually review some of this music, right? And on Instagram, you actually get up on there and review some of it. I've seen some of your videos reviewing. You want to talk about that a little bit, and maybe plug it?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned before, I started a podcast as well, and it's kind of like that's one of our main segments is reviewing the New Music Friday. We'll just go through and we kind of bash it mostly because a lot of it is not that great, but there'll be like those 4 or 5 gems out of 100 that are like, wow, like this is like amazing, but I do try to keep it positive, but man, it is tough. But
edifying, like constructive criticism.
Right? Yeah, constructive criticism.
Edification, build upon, right? Type of
yeah, exactly. And just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean you don't like it. It doesn't mean that those people spent a lot of time. I mean, it's a lot of work to put together a record. So I always respect that. I always respect the struggle, and I think that's something everybody should do. Is just, even if you hate a record, just remember that someone put their heart and soul into that thing, and that doesn't mean you have to like it, though. One thing I've learned over the years that's super important is you cannot convince someone to like something that they don't like. It just doesn't work. Right. If you don't like it, you don't like it. You got to move on, and that's working with clients and whatnot. That's very tricky because if they're not literate in like music production stuff, because like what am I going to do with someone who doesn't really know what's going on and they're like, oh, I don't like the mix. What don't you like about it? I don't like it.
Right.
Okay.
And I guess that's one aspect of it. I guess another aspect would be like, do I really want to work with this person? They really don't sound great, and do I really want my name on it? I mean, you got to pay some bills, right?
Yeah, you got to be careful about that. Yeah, because your name is going on stuff. The good thing about that is, though, is if, I've done this. A lot of producers have to, sometimes you got to just take the money, You got to take the money and you do the record. But if the record is whack, nobody's going to listen to it. Nobody's going to look up the credits on that and be like, oh, they suck. I'm never working with them. Because they're just not going to get traction. That's not really how it works. So it's not as risky as it seems, I think. But yeah, I mean, in that aspect of it is as far as discovery, but it is risky in the aspect of you still have to put your heart and soul into this record. And if you're not behind that at least a little bit, it's going to be brutal for you. I've put myself in that situation so many times that now I turn down a lot of projects. Even sometimes if I like the record, but I don't like the person, I'll just be like, yeah, nah, because a lot of people are there's a lot of like overhyped stuff in the industry too. People are just, I don't need you hyping me up on how good your record is when I'm mixing it. Like, I'll mix the record. And that's another pet peeve is like when people are like, oh, what do you think of the record? Like, it's good. I wouldn't have taken it if it wasn't good. And also, it's a thing where if you listen to something over and over again, you're going to naturally like it, especially if you're having a creative aspect of it. So like after I've mixed it, I've listened to it 100, 200, 300 times. Of course I'm going to like it. It's no longer a objective opinion. Now it's subjective. I've invested time in this thing, so I hopefully like it.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's excellent advice for some producers and engineers, which is probably one of the questions you probably get asked when all these interviews, right? What would be one piece of advice that you would give them, um, besides of what you just mentioned? The maybe having chemistry with people, or maybe taking or not taking some jobs because it'll reflect on what you've done. Uh, what other things do you think somebody that's just getting started, beginning to mess around with a little bit of music production, or beginning to touch a mixer and trying to get something, what would advice you give them besides them coming to you and taking some classes, some Zoom lessons,
um,
obviously, because we
yeah,
want to
I
do
guess
that.
just trust your ears is the main thing. I was at some convention and I was telling these kids. Someone asked me the same question, and to be honest, I was a little drunk at the time. But the answer is good. It's
It was
very
honest.
simple, and like it's basically if it sounds bad, it probably is, and if it sounds good, it probably is.
Yeah.
You got to go with your ears. Your ears don't lie, and I mean, saying it like that, it's very simplistic, but in actuality, like when you're executing this, it's a lot more difficult. But I always think about that too. Like when I'm listening to my mix in the car after to check it, I'll listen to some other songs and then I'll clip into that song and then be like, does this sound good? If it's yes, then I'm on the right track. And if something catches me weird, then I got to go back and tweak the mix. It's that's
Like,
where this thing gets tricky with the time management too, because you don't know how long these things are going to take.
especially if you're listening in different formats on a crappy speakers, on good speakers, on your car, on set of headphones or earbuds, or your home stereo. Because I find myself doing that a lot actually in the past couple of years. That I try to proof everything, because you don't never know how stuff's gonna sound in somebody else's. I have this crappy speakers, and I mean, as far as I can, the best speakers that I could afford. I have some of those, and I have some really good home stereo. And I have a really nice stereo in my car, and sometimes I'll bring the DJ equipment, and like blast to see how it sounds on the big sound and
Yeah,
stuff. So
the
all
club
that is
test.
time consuming. Yeah, the subtest. Oh boy, yeah, because that low end, man. You know what I mean? You know that better
uh,
than anybody. But I
well, that's why I
guess,
got this sub pack here. I mean, this thing is key. Because I don't. I mean, I have DJ speakers in the garage, but I got neighbors, so I
yeah.
can't be turning those up. But this thing, I can mix all night and crank it, and it'll feel like I'm in the club. My spine's rattling, but everybody else is still sleeping.
Well, let's plug your podcast, man. Let's plug your podcast. Let's plug your Twitter handles, your social media handles. Let's plug in your website, man. Let's do that right
All
now.
right,
Would that be
so
great?
yeah, the podcast is producingmusicpodcast.com. It's on all the podcast platforms, Apple and TuneIn and Spotify. We post it to YouTube with video and SoundCloud as well. So that's Producing Music Podcast. I also have I'm building some sample packs. So my sample packs are available at freeproducersamples.com. You can get my free pack. You just got to drop your email. And there's some paid packs as well. Uh, and then, as we mentioned before, my website, cooperanderson.net, is kind of like the hub for everything. And to book my production and mixing services, those are on soundbetter.com. But you can also link them through my website, because there's a lot of other people on soundbetter.com, and the quality varies, so I can't vouch for anyone else. So come to me, come to the pros.
Well, yes, of course. It makes a big difference. Where you go and spend money. And uh, with that said, I've got an offer with different people to come and like learn. like to do stuff. And first of all, I'm not learning anything from somebody that's over 50 still lives at home with mom. You know what I mean? That's one thing I'm definitely not not doing. And some of these people, not that particular one, but other people are like good DJs or good producers, and but they really don't know how to like this interview is going, like how well we're going back and forth, and it's naturally flowing, right? Some people don't have that ability to be able to teach or give others, or relate with others. Is you don't want to be there, but I'm definitely gonna be going on there, picking up some sample packs myself. Not only the free ones, but the ones that you have to pay for. And I will definitely be looking into for some to try to advance myself. Also, I'm trying to become a better musician, a better producer. A better mixing. Uh, uh,
Awesome, bud. Yeah, I'm
DJ.
also trying to, I'm trying to help people out too. So I'm trying to get like as much free content out there as possible. So if you have any ideas, I mean, people hit me up on Instagram with a question and I'll just make a video about it. So
I'm gonna put the handle on there, but I want you to go ahead and say it, your Instagram handle and your Twitter handle as well.
yeah, so Instagram is at Coops, COOPSS. And my Twitter is, I'm not really as active on Twitter, but it's at Coop Rock City, COOPROCKCITY.
Nice.
And
Well,
Facebook, I don't even think I've logged on in like a year and a half. So
yes,
it's
Facebook.
Instagram DMs is probably the best way, or email to reach me.
Yes. Well, this interview is going to be airing on Facebook Live. I am I'm looking to do the restream to where I stream everywhere.
Oh,
But
nice.
and I got to get on Twitch. I haven't gotten on Twitch, by the way, but I
Oh,
am
yeah.
going to. And I just recently got verified with the YouTube verification thing on there for the
Oh, cool.
artist, and I found out you can actually upload music directly into YouTube artists. I'm not talking about like the YouTube channel. I'm talking about
Hmm.
into the actual artist store once you're verified with them, and that's something that I look forward to take advantage of. And as far as the podcast goes, but I want to build a good 10 episodes before I upload. I
Yeah,
want to
that's what I'm doing. I'm just, I had a couple episodes pre-recorded, but we only have two posted right now. But I'm actually on
okay.
Buzzsprout, which
Buzzsprout.
is I'm
Okay.
just on the free plan, and it posts to all of those places, but they delete it after 90 days. So probably
Okay.
in when that's about to expire, then I'll jump on the paid plan, and
Oh yeah. Well,
but
gotta thread the waters little by little, man. It gets expensive, As somebody I once said,
yeah.
you teach a man how to fish, and he'll eat for the rest of his life. But if you teach a musician how to buy gear, he'll be broke the rest of his life.
Oh yeah, for real. Yeah,
It
steer
gets.
clear from subscription services as much as possible. Like
It,
that's that's the number one bank account killer.
dude, the next thing you know, you got $300-400 going out. Like I know about that. I killed a lot of them, like
No,
a lot of
don't be
them.
afraid to kill them. Do not be
No,
afraid to kill. You can always sign back up.
yeah. Well, I think that's probably the best piece of advice that I got today, because I definitely had to stop the gas on that, and you don't realize it until like 6 7 months later that all this money has been going out. And one of the bad habits that I've had is that I normally don't have it on a debit. I have it on the credit cards, but then when you go and revise what you did, and it's hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So
Yeah,
spend it wisely on the things that are definitely essential, correct?
yeah, yeah. If you don't use it, just cut it off. There's no point in throwing your money away. And yeah, if it's $5 here, $10 there, $20 there, it's not that much. But if you have like 10 of them, now it's starting to be some money. And if it's every month, it's a lot of money.
Oh yeah, yeah. All right. Well, man, I listen. I really appreciate you coming on my podcast, man. Definitely blessing the airways with this information that people won't get anywhere else. Cooper Anderson, Diamond, multi-platinum, Grammy credits. It's a pleasure, man, to know
Billboard
you.
number ones. I got my Billboard #1 over here too.
Yes, Billboard #1, man, and it goes Rick Ross. I mean, you name it, man. You've accomplished so much. I definitely look up to you, and I look forward to having you again on the podcast, man. Maybe you and Connect, and I'm gonna go and sign up with some of this sample packs, definitely, man. And
Awesome, man.
I
Carlos,
want.
thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me. It's been a great, and yeah, and we'll get together again. Maybe we'll have a combo with Connect and
That would
send
be awesome.
send me some stuff you're working on too. Let's keep it moving.
Oh,
Keep the
dude, I
Jersey
have.
the Jersey scene happening. Maybe
Actually,
we
I
can
have.
do some remixes of each other's stuff or whatever.
We should definitely do that. I actually have a lot of releases coming out this year. I have at least four more that I'm gonna put out. But like you said, it's like I just released two of them in the past. Since in February I released two of them, Interlink the remix. And one of the things about me is like I'm trying to become better, but obviously I want to be able to have some of it. You can't do everything yourself. Some people are specific on certain things that they'll do, and this is where people like you and like other amazing producers and engineers come in, and we should not be afraid to reach out and send you some work. So everybody that's listening, guys out there, Cooper is the man with the plan, with the credits, with the knowledge, with the gear. And I'm going to make a podcast episode about the difference between a music studio and a music lab. Okay, because there's
All
a big
right.
difference. Like I work at a lab. I have like a little lab. It's like
Yeah.
intimate, it's small. That's a music lab, and most of us have music labs and don't have access to studios. That it's a big difference. Like your studio,
Yeah.
it's definitely amazing. And anything else, man? Send us out. Anything you want to say to anybody? And floor is yours.
All right, man. No, that's great. Yeah, thank you again for having me, and it's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it, brother. I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, buddy.
Thanks
All
for
right.
coming on,
Stay
bud.
safe out there. We'll see you later.